right. Good morning. Good morning. Let me unmute myself in Discord here. How's it going? We got NG in the chat already. Just waiting for us. Elizabeth Canning, good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, January 27th. I think we're going to have a pretty easy day in the market. Let me switch this over to our pre-market. I'll build out my watch list, all that good stuff. How's everyone doing? We're also live on socials. You guys are welcome to follow on there. If you have trouble with the audio here in Discord, which should be squared away. All right, let me just paste that link in here just so you guys can check that out. Kenny Penny says, good morning. Elizabeth says, I was just saying I can't wait to hear hello alarm clock. Yeah, I've got another 5 minutes on that. He's not awake yet. Try to let him sleep in on Tuesdays. Nikki, Tammy, what's going on? Good morning. Yeah. Yesterday it was a rough morning. But we're here. We're here now. We got about 15 minutes till market open. We got some exciting stuff on the docket for today, and I got to make a whole bunch of changes to stuff after this stream. So I think it'll be good. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you, though. It was good. I got some muscle soreness, but we're good. And then one of the kids broke they tripped the breaker this morning a couple hours ago, so the heat and all that was off. So I woke up to a pretty cold house, but it's all fixed now. It's all back on and all that good stuff. So just one of those days. So that is a factor. If you're someone that gets like distracted and stuff like that, and that'll affect your trading. So got to be mindful of that. With all that said, let me first figure out the number that I'm going to use for my trading today. So my account value here is 43.79, and I want to take 4 trades. So I'm just going to divide that by 4. That gives me 10.95. So I already put that number in here under quantity settings. Then I've got these buttons here with my 2% take profit already set, so we can just get in and out. Let the market just kind of do its thing. I'm going to go ahead and remove. Yesterday I did grab. It was Kit, I think was one. If I go here to the 2 minute, I just grabbed a quick attempt off this line here, just a quick little bounce. So it looks like it's up here, but the buy was here, and then it was just a super tight range here. And again, the symbol's down here, but I sold it like right here, so like 118 or something like that. So not the end of the world there. And then the other one, I can't remember, BATL. That's what it was. So BATL I traded as well. I just got the bounce off of this. We had the little mosquito come down here and puncture the box, and then I just caught it as it was flying away. I sold most of the shares here, and then I sold the rest of them here when it started to pull back. So I don't really care too much about what else happens, because it eventually did go up to here and broke over $5 and all that good stuff. But I don't care, because it also came all the way down here to $3. So my job was just to get in and out, and I did that, and I made I think a 6% profit yesterday. So pretty easy in terms of minimal stress and just clicking a couple buttons on my phone, because I was obviously not inside my house at that point with everything going on. So let's just build ourselves a watch list again for today. We've got XTKG. Now I can't trade this one on this account because it is below $1, which means I have to buy 100 shares minimum. And since this is 61 cents per share, that means that I have to buy $61 worth, which I can't do with an allocation size of $10.95 per buy. So I'm going to pass on this one. I will add it to the list just so we can watch it, but I'm not going to be able to trade it myself. NUWE, I like this one. We've traded the hell out of this one as well. Now, I can already tell a lot of these are kind of pulling back in the morning. I'm going to add IVF as well. It's going to be one of those mornings where the volume is sketchy. Like PHGE, for example here. I'll add it, but the volume is sketchy. So today is a day where I just want to get in and out. I don't want to fight with stuff, and I don't want to hang out too long. I see a lot of good, setups. Like all 5 of these so far have been pretty good setup-wise. GNT, I'm not touching. But the volume just isn't there yet. So if we look at like NUWE, for example, you can see I've got a nice, beautiful level right there. And I'm just going to draw some ranges here. I kind of like this guy as well, nice and small. I might, you know what? I think, yeah, it's pretty big. I think I'm going to erase that. I kind of like this better, just like that level. I'm going to go ahead and draw a box there as well off of this guy. And then I think that's pretty much it in terms of what I see here. That's NUWE. Let me put these tickers in here as well. XTKG, PHGE, NUWE, CYN, and of course, good morning, buddy. Hey, alarm clock. How's it going? Those are the tickers I'm going to be watching. I'll put those on the social media as well, just so everyone can kind of keep an eye on those. For NUWE, though, I'm just looking for a move out of this box, or out of this box. I'm not looking for anything else. We don't really want to. We don't want to force anything on a day like today. PHGE, I kind of like this move down here so far. Let's see if it has any merit to it. So this one, I can't use this time frame very well. I actually kind of like this a little bit better. So let me just kind of back out. I'm just going to look at that other box there and kind of see, is there anything historical? I've got some kind of near touches on this one historically, but I think I'm just going to go up to the 3-minute here and see. I still like this upper box a little bit better. Kind of like that as well. Yeah, I think that's about it on this one. We just got a bunch of weirdness on this one, so we'll see what it does here. NUWE, we already kind of went through. CYN, I like this one. I've got a box here, but it's kind of big, so I don't think I'm going to draw this one just yet. I do like this guy right here, and that's kind of coming out of this box, and we can see it's kind of rejecting here. So I like this box a little bit better. I'm just going to kick this one up to the 30 minutes, a little trick that I like to use just to kind of see how a box behaves historically. And I see it's got some validations on it, so I think I'm going to leave that range right where it's at. I don't want to add anything else to that chart and make it messy. So I don't really see anything down here that I can use. I mean, I got a nice little trend line right here, but that's useless. I'll draw it anyway just so you guys can see kind of what I'm looking at. We kind of got that right there, and it failed, but it was already on its way down. So that's kind of a non-issue. All right, IVF obviously is the other one. This one I do like. I like it a lot. We've traded the hell out of it. I'm going to draw the bigger box on this one. Normally I do it down here, but I kind of like this. And then more importantly, I see a box right here that I'd like. And then again, I'm just going to kick this up to the 30-minute. And you can see we've got a much larger box up here from where we traded it before. So I would like to see a clean break and a hold over this box right here, just under $2, or I'm sorry, right at $2. And then if we can get a bounce off of $2 and push higher, I should be able to very easily get my 2% for the day. So we'll see. I'm going to switch this back here. I'm going to adjust this so it sorts by pre-market runner in descending order. So top on the top and bottom on the bottom. And I'm just going to kind of get a feel for these numbers. You know, that's the difficult part for the day, is just kind of tracking these numbers. So I got around 138, 139, around 107. So I've got 2 of these over 100%, and I've got 2 in the 50s and then 1 in the 30s. So if these numbers break out of those ranges, I'll be able to kind of map that out in my brain. My brain will just recognize it, and then I'll know to focus on that stock. Elizabeth says, now it is 2%, not 1. Yeah, it's a decision I made a few weeks back. It doesn't really have any material difference day to day. I just wanted to first demonstrate the consistency with 1 to 1.5%. Now I'm increasing that number up to 2%, and I will increase it again in the future, but not yet. And then I'll show you guys kind of how to determine the rate for the day. Like today would be a 2% day. I wouldn't want to shoot for a 6% profit on a day like today, because you'll probably get chewed up more often than not. And you got to be very mindful of the market conditions when you're setting those targets, because you want the volatility to do its job and not work against you. So for today, yeah, just a simple 2%. And that's what the spreadsheet has on it. I changed that in December 15th, 2025 is when I made that decision. When I trimmed the account back down. Agreed. I wish. All right, looks like IVF's going a little bit little bit wonky here, and we've got some movement on XTKG. Now, again, I can't trade this one in this account, right? Because the 100 share minimum that I have to buy costs more than the account currently has in it. So I can't trade this one. But we can watch it and we can study it. Lee already slammed a 1.59%, $363.16 profit. You need more? Good stuff. You want to round it up to 2%? Okay. What are you going to trade? You going to sell some? You going to sell some puts? Got about 5 minutes till market open, which means we're officially in the auction cross. And I'm going to keep an eye on NUWE for today and IVF probably. They're going to be my two top watches. And looks like CYN wants to be a runner-up as well, but not going to trade any of these pre-market here. Now, I would like to see, sorry, I will draw a level here at $3. I don't know, why is that open? That's weird. My BattleNet. Oh, because I had to restart my computer. So yeah, it's starting all my programs up. My breaker got tripped this morning. Let's see, is there anything else here that I don't use, like BlueStacks? Okay, sorry about that, guys. Silly. Yeah, one of the kids was using the hairdryer and it popped the breaker. And then it's the same breaker my furnace is on. So, we're going to heat that hair up or the house, but not both. You're going to trade SPY for that 0.41%? All right. Well, don't get chewed up on the fees. All right, we got about 3.5 minutes till market open. None of these are really moving. They're not really breaking out of their ranges, which is kind of good, you know, for what I'm looking for. But I'm just going to draw a line here at $1 because something like this could very easily pop over $1 and then I can trade it. But it's got to get up to here for that to happen. Till then, I'm not going to touch it. But yeah, so we'll just hang out. Looks like it's trying to push for a new high into market open, but again, you know, I can't trade this one, so not bad, not bad. I will draw some boxes though, because we do like those boxes. I'll draw that one down there, and that's it. That's all we need, right? 2 boxes. I got me 2 box Shakur. Nope, that's not a thing. Yeah, all right. So I like those 3 ranges, and again, I can't trade this one on this account, but we can watch it. Looks like PhD is pulling down a little bit. Looks like IVF's pulling down a little bit. Now remember, I want this to come down to here. So if this wants to come down to like 140s, then I can look for a trade on it. But when the market opens, I'm just going to kind of let things do their, I'm going to let the process work, and I'm just going to kind of watch and see where things land. Has anybody here already burned through all their settled cash for the day? All right, we're in the last 2 minutes till market open. Give me 1 second here. All right. Snowflakes, I'm almost out of margin. Oh, no. Well, I hope you're having a good time. Are you shorting a bunch of hard to borrow high interest? Well, let's make it interesting. Hard to borrow ETFs. That way you have the ETF fees on top of it. All right, we got 1:15, so 75 seconds till market open. NUW is kind of stalling here. IVF is kind of getting ready, looks like. It's got a good setup here on the order book. I'm going to definitely be watching this one into open. PhDE is pulling back to our box. But again, I got to see a confirmation out of the box. We've got a 5 candle run here, which means I can draw my line, but I'm not going to enter anything until it breaks out. So we got 45 seconds for the market to open. So PHGE is going to be in the mix for a potential trade, but it looks like IVF and yeah, it looks like IVF and PHGE are probably going to be my top 2 watches based on what I'm seeing right now. So we got 30 seconds left. So I'm going to switch this over to the 1 day. And then when the market opens, I'm just going to click top losers and top gainers until these numbers update, because Webull likes to have a little bit of a delay when it comes to updating these and also the price action. So I want to make sure everything is accurate first. Like you see how it just blanked out there and there's a bunch of missing info. I don't trust this. I'm also going to switch this over to the percent change. All right, market is open. So I'm just going to kind of push these buttons until this updates. All right, we're updated. So now I can start to look for trades. I'm just going to consolidate this down. Let's see here. That one wants to run. That one wants to pull down. That one wants to potentially run. That's pulling down into the box. That's good stuff. So for this one, I'm just going to move my line down. And that one's pulling down here. So I think IVF is probably going to be my #1 watch for right now. So I'm just going to put my mouse right over this. And then I just want to see a break over this box. All right. So nothing's happening there just yet. So I'm just going to shop around. And remember, XTKG, I can't trade on this account. So not going to be watching that one too intently here. All right. Well, looks like I missed my entry on that one, but that's okay. I'm okay to grab some here. That's a lot of strength. Then if we get a pop over this, I don't want this to halt, so I'm not going to enter it here just yet. But you guys can see easy potential on that one out of that box. So good stuff on that one. I'm going to wait till that settles down a little bit because I don't want to get caught. And that's the entry to target was very small range. It was 5 cents on that one. So plus it was only a $6 fill. So not the best profit wise. So, but that's okay. You know, it's a good easy pop, and that's probably going to halt, which I think it might have already done. All right, NUWE starting to pull up. Now I don't have a specific entry here, right? We're between two ranges, and you can make the justification here, but I don't really like that zone just yet, right? It doesn't have a good, strong history. It's kind of bisected. So I think I'm just going to wait till it breaks over into here. And this is NUWE. Yeah, PHG. That was a no-brainer. That one was going to halt. It's just slam, slam, slam. Hell of a candle. So I will be watching that one. See, now right here, typically I'd get in on a break of that after that wick turns bullish. Yeah, so we'll see. Now this one, again, it has to break out of this box here. This is NUWE, so I'm just going to kind of hang out and let things go. There's no need to trade everything I see. It's very tempting for a lot of traders to just want to jump into everything, but you don't want to do that. You just really want to pick the best of the best and let things, let things develop, because if you see something moving quickly, it might just still not be a good setup. It might just be out of your area. So if you're watching a zone, think of it like hunting a deer, right? You want to go sit in your tree stand and let the deer come to you. But if you go chasing deer around the forest, you're going to get hurt. And especially if you're trying to shoot those deer while they're like, if you see one in a city, you can have some hard times there. So just kind of be mindful and be careful. So this one here, I'm willing to add another buy if I have to, if it comes down to here. But ideally, it just keeps pushing. It's got a lot of strength. And then IVF is my other watch here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my piece on this one. So I think we're okay here. I'm just going to put these side by side just so we can watch them both. Never mind. That one already filled. Easy trade on that one. And then NUWE is pulling down a little bit here. So we'll see if that one wants to rally up. My goal for the day, by the way, on this small cash account is only to make 66 cents. That's all I have to make for the day to hit my 1.5% goal. You guys can see that, hopefully. Now, I'm shooting for 2% per trade, and that's to get me somewhere in that range. But I'm never going to get a perfect 2% because there's going to be some slippage on the fills. There's going to be differences in order sizes and things like that. So it's never going to be a perfect 2% unless you're using the entire portfolio and you happen to get matched to the penny and then sell exactly at 2%. So it's I'm overshooting a little bit on the target to hit my 1.5% goal. All right, so I got filled on this one. So we're so far we're doing okay. We got 3 for 3 here. Let me just check my cash here. Okay, I got 1771 left, so I got another full size buy, and then I got kind of a $6.90 or something like that. XTKG again. I can't trade this one, but it is pulling down. Don't have a 5 candle run just yet either. NEWE is pulling down a little bit here. It's just showing a little bit of stickiness. IVF as well. Now, if this one can pop out of here, that would be cool. Because remember, I want that to hold over $2 and then push. But if it can't, that's rejection city, and I don't want to be part of that. So we'll see where it goes. Ideally, we're looking for a break over like 218. That'd be awesome. Now, PHGE is also unhalted. Sorry, it's not unhalted yet. 931.25, 936.25. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one because this one is going to be a little bit cooler. It's going to be a lot more fun. So 936.25. So I got about 40 seconds on that one. My cat is going ape outside my door, by the way. I don't know if you guys can hear him howling. He's not a normal cat. He just howls at me. All right, 20 seconds left on PHGE, and I want to see where it's going to unhalt. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look right here and see what this number is, because this is going to update first, then this will update, then the chart will render that result. So I've got 7 seconds, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and unhalts 677. All right. And the advantage to watching this is that we know where it's going to, we know when it's going to unhalt. And a lot of traders are already going to be looking at other tickers, and they're going to be confused because they're only going to know it updated when they see their, that might halt again on volume. Dang it. I was hoping to grab a piece. If it breaks over this right here, yeah, I'm going to grab a piece right there. That was super quick. Sorry. Yeah, other traders are going to be looking at this, and they're only going to see that it's unhalted when they see their number reflected, and it's going to go bonkers. And then they're going to be like, oh crap, this is unhalted. I got to go look at it. So sounds like a normal cat. He is not. I'm going to move this up just a little bit, just because it is going to be a little bit bigger. I don't know if I got filled on that at a higher rate. So let me just check that. I got filled 6.96 cents. Yeah, so it still just did the quicker percentage on that one. Blah, but that's okay. And again, it was a $6 position, $6 and whatever cents, which means I still have some settled cash. So I've got 1086. So let me just reflect. Let me just adjust this number here. I don't want this to halt again. I like this one and I like the potential it has, but I don't want to trade it too much because it's very dangerous, and this could very easily halt again because you see this volume here is insane. So I don't quite trust this one. So let me just look around. I mean, I like the setup. I like the strength of the volume, but I don't want to risk it too much until I see a little bit more stability in it. And we're also only 8 minutes in. We've traded what, 3 or 4 times. So we don't have to go balls to the wall every day, all day. We can catch our little pieces and get in and out. So my last buy will be $10.86. So I'm just kind of seeing what ticker has the best potential for that $10.86 allocation. PHGE is clearly the strongest right now, but that can also halt, which I don't really want to be caught in just yet. Now, I do like it a lot more up here. So I think if it breaks over 740, I'm going to taking a risky entry here, and I'm going to, that probably just halted, and that's okay. I'm going to move this order up here to $8, and that's because I'm familiar enough with this stock. We're probably going to see some downside on it, but it's okay. I like it here, and I still have, $4 or whatever left over. So pretty risky, but I just wanted to get over these highs. We're now in a momentum gap. When it unhalts, it could very easily pop over $8, and we'll see where it goes. But obviously, I also have to be prepared for the other outcome, so I don't want to be super crazy about it. but it's worth risking one share. So we'll see how that one lands. XTKG looks like it's bouncing off this lower range here pretty well so far. We don't have a 5 candle run in the 2 minute, but we do have a nice bounce out of there, a lot of strength. So again, I can't trade it on this account. I just don't have $60 in there for a single buy. So it's not something that I could use, but if I did, that would be a very quick 7%. You know, at this point, we could have got our 2% and just walked away. So far, pretty decent morning. NUWE is struggling to hold above this box here. So we're seeing some downside here. And, you know, it's been down here before, obviously. So this is kind of where they're manipulating a little bit. And then if it wants to hold here, you know, it should bounce up nicely. But we may come all the way down here and test this little tiny box if it wants to. So we'll see what it does. But typically, we're going to see a little bit of a buy up before then. So we'll see if they're defending this area. So this would be this would be viewed as the loading zone, if you will. This is a manipulation range. So 425 is kind of the decision zone. There we go, it just fell. So now we're coming down to the box, and then this is where we'll see a potential bounce or failure all the way down below 4. So that's why we wait for the price to be going the other direction before we get in. We don't want to just try to time the bottom. We don't want to buy just because something's in a zone. We got to see it leaving the zone in our favor. For PHGE, we got 939.07, so 944.07 is the unhalt. And this one we might see a lot of volatility on. So I don't want to, you know, I don't want to stay in this one forever. And I don't want to, you know, hold it all the way down to $5 either. So I got to be very mindful about the environment that we're in here. I have $3.37 left in settled cash. So I'm going to do $3.37. All right. So when this unhalts, the theory should be, you know, we should be seeking a pullback and then a slingshot to the upside. So we'll see if we get that. We get about 2 minutes, 2 minutes now. But we should have plenty of upside potential on this one, plenty of strength in theory. So we'll see if that happens. If not, I'm risking one share. So it's not the end of the world, but I've got my sell order here set at $8. So pretty close. I think it's like 6 or 7% on that one. And the reason I'm expanding that is because of the volatility that we have on this this halt to halt stock. So a minute and a half. It's going to peek over here at these. So NUWE is now tapping the bottom box. Let's see if we can get a break up out of that one. We don't have a 5 candle run, but we do have a little bit of a push out of this box. I'd like to see some sort of candle break. So I'd probably wait like another minute or so and then see if this high here can get broken over, if anything. Got to be very careful with stuff like this because it's, you know, it's down here and it's coming out of the box nicely. But that was also a lot of strength that filled that whole gap. So a situation like that, maybe you just let it go. You don't have to catch every single trade. You know, and if you do, just grabbing those quick, small base hit percentages can be pretty nice. So you don't have to trade the whole range. You just want to get your little piece and run away for the day. Because those small profits add up. They compound really nicely. As long as you don't do crazy stuff and kind of offset them all with huge losses, which I may very well end up doing here with PHGE. But it's good demonstration. So we've got about 30 seconds left on PHGE. So let's come over here and look at this one. And again, when you're in a halt, on Webull specifically, you want to look at this number here and add 5 minutes to it. So 944.07. So we got 10 seconds. And then you want to look at this number right here first, because this is going to update before anything else. And then you can look up here at the bid-ask spread. You can see which one is the bid and which one's the ask. We're going to halt here in a second. All right, so we're pulling down. And then let's see if we get our slingshot to the upside. And then you can look at the chart and you'll see the candles update. And that's how those tend to work. All right, so I'm just going to kind of zoom this out here so we can see. There's my 2%. And here's my 1.5% approaching for the day. There's my 66 cents is the goal. Now I've got this target set higher, obviously. I'm going to actually move it down just below $8 because I don't want to try to compete for liquidity at $8. And we'll see if we just get a nice clean break here to the upside. There we go. So 789. So we're up about 5%. I could just lock this here if I want to, but I feel like we're probably going to hit our target. So we'll see if that does, or if it's going to sell down drastically and halt again. That's usually how it goes. I don't really like what it's doing here, so I'm going to move this down here to about 784, and then we'll just try to catch a little pop on that. We now have a pretty sizable wall there at 770 that they just pulled. So I'm just kind of pulling this back a little bit because I don't trust this volatility. So I'm just going to kind of collapse that down to the y-axis so it's auto-scaled. I do like that we're getting a little heartbeat here, but I don't like that it is so wild, right? And we can expect it to be. It's a free float of 1.26 million, but the volatility should have been directional by now. So it's not to say it's going to pull down or that it's going to blast or anything. I just don't really like the fact that they're still kind of controlling the range. So we'll see if this one wants to get ugly or if it wants to stay beautiful. So far, we got plenty of runway to the upside, so I'm not concerned about that. I don't like this 703 wall hanging out here, but we'll see where it goes. I'd much rather see this just blast up to like 810 or something, like right up into this box where it wants to go. So it clearly wants to go up. We got a ton of volume on it, and it's just kind of being a little bit shakeouty here, right? Because a lot of these algos are going to want to kind of suppress this range, and they're going to want to, they just keep looking for this continuation to the downside, but that part's over, right? We're getting a bounce up out of that at this point. So basically what they're looking for is a fib rejection, right? So they're kind of trying to grab it here in no man's land and shove it to the downside. You can see they're stacking a couple small walls here on the bid side. So they're definitely trying to hold it. Oh, what's up, Tate Naki? How's it going? How's your morning? The candles are, they're filling out. They're plump. How was your sleep? All right, we got a 748 wall here. It's a 3K, 3079 double wall here, 748, 750. This is interesting. They got the small wall on the other side, which means they're looking for a chain fill to pop over 750. So that's interesting. There's that up to 758. 760. They really have these small walls stacked on both sides. So I think the larger wall here at 780 should be good. Just going to kind of zoom in a little bit, make it dramatic. And you can see it's really, really contentious right here. That time and sales is flying, and the price is really tightly locked in a range. So when that releases, it should move violently in whatever direction it breaks out. So far we're stacked to the upside, which is good. I got my target up there. All right. So I might move this down just one more time here because I don't like the bid side. They keep creeping these walls up here. So if it doesn't start moving with some intent, I'm just going to move my order down just a little bit here. But we're underneath the high, so I think we're okay. But remember, my goal is just to make 66 cents. I don't need to shoot for anything over that. So I don't want to be super... I don't want to have any more risk on this. It's a high volatility trade here. So we're going to see a lot of up. We're going to see a lot of down. And I just want to catch my little piece and move on. And I do still have $3 and some odd cents. So I could come over here and grab one of these after the fact as well if I wanted to. But I don't really like either of these stocks. Plus, I don't really need to trade them. So far, we're still in this range here. Volume is kind of trickling down a little bit. So again, I'm not a huge fan of these bid walls. They're going to want to try to push it to 7. And then they want to try to trip that down for for continuation to the downside from the other setup, right? So there's a set of algos right here that we're absorbing, and then they push the price down, and they're trying to catch it and do the same here. The problem is we've already pushed too heavily into their territory, so this is kind of a futile effort, which means that they're going to recognize that, and they're going to have to dump a bunch more resources in there, and that's what they've been doing. They've been dumping all this volume in here to try to control this range. But from what I'm seeing so far, it looks like our guy's the bigger one. I'm seeing a lot of attrition here on the bid wall. So we should be moving to the upside. At least that's what I'm seeing so far. Remember, these are bigger institutions that are fighting each other, so we can kind of see signatures which kind of indicate who's the bigger ones and who's consumed as the little ones. So far I think we're okay. But of course, I'm on a live stream, so as soon as I say that, it's going to plummet. That's just how it works. Hey, Dancy, how's it going? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Also, we had a pretty special announcement yesterday. I think you guys are going to be excited about this. So we had previously offered a 5-day free trial of Premium, and we're super happy that so many people enjoyed that. But we found a better offer after a lot of discussion and some member feedback. So the number one point in the member feedback was that the trial was just too short, right? There's just too much information. It was too short. So instead of doing a free trial, we're going to offer a 50% off monthly subscription. So that way everybody who signs up as a new subscriber for Premium gets half off the first month. So not quite the same as a free trial, but you get the entire month without having to without having that stress of like, what if there's a holiday? I lose my 20% of my trial, or having to wait. You can sign up instantly and just get access with that 50% off. So not a sales guy, but I just wanted everyone to know that. And I'll put the link here in the chat as well, just so everybody can see that. Oh, I gotta open my ATEX. Sorry, guys. I forgot my computer restarted. And there's a new 50. You got to use that code at checkout to get that 50% off. Now, again, this isn't a sales push. I'm just kind of letting everyone know that it is available now, and that we made a pretty significant change to our Premium here. So let me just get rid of that thumbnail because they're annoying. I hate thumbnails. There we go. All right. So they came down here and they triggered the $7 range. So let's see if they are able to push it down there, or if the bigger guy is going to accumulate and then just slam it back to the upside for a new high. Because if you look at it from his perspective, and he's the bigger guy, that's a perfect 50% retracement. So that may be enough for him. So let's see if we get that volume surge that we're looking for, and it just slams the price to the upside. We got plenty of runway here on the order book. We don't have any really, we don't have any indicated walls here. We got some small ones here on the bid, but the larger portion of the activity here is going to be on the ask side. So we should be okay, but it is also the market, and it's unpredictable. So we'll see which way it goes. So while that's cooking, I'm going to come over here to CYN. You can see that just sold off, right? It didn't get over the zone. No entry potential on that one. I'm just going to erase that line. There was a 5 candle rule right there that broke. You would have had a quick 2% if that's what you were trading. But this is not a stock that we like to trade when it's doing this, right? This is just clear sell off. There's no point in trying to time the bottom on something like that. IVF also got rejected, pulled down here. Right now it's in the middle of no man's land. So not an opportunity, right? There's nothing we can really look for here. It's about to potentially fall into a momentum gap. So if I draw a line right here, you fall below that, it's just a straight shot down to there. And then we can look for an opportunity out of that box. But for right now, I don't like it. So we'll hang out and see what that does. PHG, I'm in. We're hanging out around the $7. So let's see if we can get our quick shoot up from 7 to 8. I'll come back to that one in a moment. XTKG. Also, again, we got our little bounce off the zone, but it didn't hold, right? It just fell right through there. So a lot of these are just kind of pulling down pretty hard here. So we've got another box right here we can draw. So maybe, right? But then you've got to consider also, this is a lot of bearish strength. It's just slamming down, slamming down. So you've got your impulse, your shallow retracement, your H-shaped continuation here to a new low. It kind of dipped below this box, and now we're starting to see some strength out of the box. But this isn't really a high quality setup. You know, it's got the box thing, which is great. You got your 2% profit on that one, but your target is right here. Like, it's pretty close. So this is not a day for these kinds of stocks to really be, you know, full ported into and things like that. Like, this is a risky day. So be careful is all I'm saying. You know, if you see a profit, there's nothing wrong with just taking it and running, because I don't trust these stocks. And you can see over here on PHGE as well, you know, we failed 7 so far. You know, we're setting up a potential 5 candle here. But it's getting dicey, right? Now, this is a low float stock. We expect some volatility, but all this drawdown's a choice that we don't have to tolerate. We can always just wait till it comes back up here and re-enter if we want. But, you know, there's going to be 2 parties here. This one here so far is trying to gain control. They're trying to push the price down. The bigger guy down here is trying to accumulate and reverse the price for a new high. So far, again, this guy seems like he's the bigger guy. So if we can get some of these wicks to turn around and break over candle highs and things, we should see a nice run. So that's the only reason I'm still holding it, is it still has that potential. And I've seen weakness on these guys' part. So far so good. But we have to also understand we were down, you know, 9 or 10%, which again, you don't ever have to tolerate. If you don't want to, you can just keep those stop losses at a nice, you know, 2 to 3% max if you want. And then you don't have to worry about all that drawdown stuff. So this one, my big concern is that if we do rally up quickly, it might halt, which I'm kind of glad it's seeing some stickiness here, so it doesn't do that. But you can see it's been steadily declining volume. Now we're seeing a quick little pop in price range, but not so much the volume. And my target is within the threshold that it would cause a circuit breaker halt if it blasted from like right here, for example. You know, we're within that 10% threshold. So at least this way I won't get caught in a halt unless it's a volume halt, which I'm currently not running the risk of. So I think we'll be okay in terms of just getting in and out. Sorry, let me drink. I'm going to drink some juice here. Delicious. But you guys can see all these big nasty wicks. You know, we got 4 sizable wicks right here. You know, we're forming a 5th one here. And then that lines up with this guy over here absorbing and rejecting the price. And then that led into these impulses over here. So as soon as we break through those, we'll be fine. I'm just going to move this back up, actually, because I kind of like that. Popping that back up to 807. You know, as soon as we break out of that range there, we'll be fine. But we got to fight through these wicks. So 760 is the level to break going forward. We got a wall at 736 that's getting chewed on, but they've been adding and removing that 760 wall a couple of times. So it's going to be interesting. Now from here, right, I got to make sure, because this one's 11%. So this one might run the risk of a halt. So that target is a little bit farther up. Maybe I was a little bit overzealous on that one. We'll see if the price can kind of float up a little bit more. Otherwise, I might have to move this back down. My biggest concern right now is if we do get a pop, I don't want to get stuck in a halt. So if this just pop all the way up, then we get filled, that's great. But if it kind of pops up here and then stutters a little bit and then pops again, then I run the risk of a halt. So I have to be very mindful of that. Not too worried about a volume halt at this point because it's sub-million. We're at about 1,147% turnover for the day, just this session here. Which is pretty good, but you kind of almost always want to keep like a 10% range in mind for when the price starts to move from an area. So from right here, for example, my target should be right under $8 if that's the case. So I'm kind of keeping my mouse up here just in case I have to grab this and pull it down, just in case that does start to happen. But for right now, I think we're okay. And I think if the price can kind of trickle up here and then pop, I think we'll have a nice, easy time getting hit without having to worry about the gap. Without having to worry about a halt. My words are not wording anymore. And then, of course, if it pulls down, we also have to worry about a downward halt. So got to be mindful of that. But again, so far, right, we're just pushing into the zone here that had rejection. So I'll draw that box as well. Then you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. This is the range that we need to break through and break out of and maintain. Now there's a bigger institution here that wants to control the price and wants to reject it to the downside. And then down here and now here, from what we're seeing, I've got three wicks. There's a larger algo down here at institution that is defending down here. And now he's moving up here to defend right here. So he's got kind of two ranges there that he wants to control the price. So the theory is that this guy should beat this guy and the price should push up through this range. And if it does, then we've got a much bigger move on our hands. Because this guy up here in the blue box, he's going to reverse all his position and end up buying shares. And then he's going to trade it in that direction so that he can recover his loss. And then in theory, that will have won the chart for the day, because that means that both these institutions, or both groups of institutions, will then be trading in the same direction. So you can see they're pretty aggressively trying to push it down into this guy's territory, and it's just getting absorbed so far. And now you're seeing the ask side is completely stacked with large walls. And those have potential to just chain fill up, 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 up. So as long as this guy continues defending, we should be fine. But this guy is no slouch, right? He's throwing bigger haymakers than he was before. So it's interesting. I want to see like how big this move potentially is once this guy decides to reverse position and he's taken enough losses to just kind of back off. So right now, this is like a cloud, and all the little, raindrop particles in that cloud are rubbing up against each other and they're compressing. So then that's building up a charge. It's building up, static electricity. And then eventually that's going to release, and it's going to go either hit the space station or it's going to come down and hit the Earth. Depends on which one, which direction it gets broken. But all I care about is that I have my potential, and I'm in a good enough spot with just one share. So I'm not risking the whole portfolio here. Just enough to get a good piece of that move. And I've got my target here set at quick 7 or 8% on that one. So a pretty aggressive target, all things considered, but we also have that volatility that I like for the low float trash stuff. So if I was just looking to get in and out, I would have already been out with my 2% over here. So I would have already just taken my profits and run away, and I'd be done for the day. We'd be staring at a spreadsheet and I'd be rambling about psychology. But I know not everyone wants to just take those 2%, and not everyone wants to hear about psychology all day yet. But we'll get you there. Nancy says, I do. I do too. I like psychology stuff because it's really what matters. It's not the candlesticks. That just tells you what the chart's telling you to do. And then obviously your plan should be your little checklist. And then if you can't push the button when it's time to push the button, then that's not an analysis issue. That's a psychology issue. It doesn't mean it's a problem. It just means that you are programmed by default to do certain things and to not do certain things. And if you don't spend the time to focus on developing that skill and understanding that it's not a flaw, then you're just gonna have a hard time in the market, get stressed out, lose money, and then give up. So it's worth reading the manual if you're gonna be operating this little meat mech suit. So you can figure out why certain things happen and why you feel certain things and think certain things. The doctor says 2.89% for the day and done. That has been the biggest success change, certainly psychology based. Good stuff, man. Happy to hear it. And that 2.89%, that compounds insanely well over 250 times every year. Yeah, you see people on YouTube just going 40, 50, 60% down. It's not good. Usually on large positions too, because I like to add to them. A drawdown is always a choice. Yeah, that's always the kicker. That's what I hate to see, is everyone's like condemning people that don't want to deal with drawdown. Like, I will never fault someone for wanting to take a small loss. Take it, lock it in. It's yours. I'm never going to tell someone that they have to hold something or chastise them and call them paper hands and attack their character over that. Like, they're doing the right thing by managing their risk. That's what I want to encourage, because that's the losses are what takes people out of the market. You know, so if you want to keep a tight stop loss, absolutely, you have my full support. All right, looks like we're getting a little bit of juice here on some of these walls here on PHGE, so we might be getting our push here pretty soon. Lots of potential here. I don't like these walls here at 7,690 on the bid, but we'll see. Those are down here in that zone, so I think those are just prep levels. We should be getting a lot of juice here over 750 up into the 790s as soon as this volume kind of shakes out in our direction. Salad fingers. Oh man, that brings me back. Set an alert and buy back in. Takes more attention, but is safer. Trailing limited buy. Yeah, and you can do all kinds of stuff. You could do buy stop orders, you know, above a level that you want to watch for a breakout, and you can use limit buy orders for you know, kind of those catch and release bounces, and you can use OTOs and OCOs to make it a little bit more programmatic, and OTOCOs as well. But you don't have to make it super complicated unless you want to. I'm personally just waiting for one of these two levels to break, and then I've also got a little bit of cash left over for anything else. But this one share should very easily just push me back over my daily goal, and we'll be good. So it looks like they're still just wanting it down here in the 690 to 7 range. So we're just kind of at the mercy of these two algos fighting. You know, mommy and daddy are fighting. So we'll see where it goes. Also, is that an orange line that I drew? It is. Let me just erase that. We've got the boxes drawn here, so I don't need to level anymore. I'm also going to erase. Oh, no, I'll keep that one. It's a good level. But you can see we've got plenty of candles here where we've got these big, you know, aggressive wicks, and then they change direction and kind of shoot off in the same direction. Or sorry, the opposite direction of the wick. So that's kind of all I'm looking for here to the upside. It's just like a candle like this, for example. If that turns bullish before it closes in the next 30 seconds, that would be a huge firecracker in the kerosene, if you will. So right now we're just kind of hanging out. CYN also, I'm just going to kind of quickly review these other tickers here. CYN starting to see a little bit of a bounce, but this again is just typically H-shaped continuation on that. It's not, you know, this isn't reversal time. It's not, oh, we caught the bottom. This thing rejected pretty hard and just never came back. So no bueno on that one. IVF still just kind of flirting with this gap here. You know, if that fails, that's coming down pretty hard, in my opinion. And it looks like we're getting lower highs and we're getting more aggressive red. So we'll see if that's what's going to happen here. And that could come down into the 140s. So not time to be jumping into that one, in my opinion. There are better opportunities out there. NUWE has also punctured the zone, right? We got our quick bounce up here, and then we didn't get through the zone. We got a rejection, and then it came down and bisected, and it just kept running down. So similar to CYN, I think it was, or IVF, we've just got a ton of downside potential here. So if this one fails, let's say here, you know, bad news bears for anyone in there. So we can always steer clear. We don't have a range down here that we can use. So it's always safer to wait for the price to be moving in the direction that makes you money before you get in. So not one that I'd be looking to trade here. XTKG, same thing, right? We got our gap to gap or range to range trade opportunity there. This one here is a quick 2% as well, but we've got a lot of action below the range here. So super sketchy stuff. So all of these cumulatively are just being a little bit sketchy today. And we kind of knew that they would be pre-market, right? We saw a bunch of signatures there. Looks like we're getting a little pull down here on PHGE. So let's see if we get that bot back up as well. And again, don't copy me, guys. I'm trading one share here, and this drawdown here is always a choice. We can always put a stop loss take profit in place and just re-enter when it comes back up. We don't have to deal with all this stuff. I tend to do this on streams just to show you guys kind of like how your position will behave over time if you do stay in these, but you don't have to by any means. Yeah, don't copy me. Is there a way to tell what the halt reason is? Yeah. So if you go to the NASDAQ trading halts, let me pull that up here. You just go to NASDAQtrader.com / let me just pull this up here and then I'll move it over here so we can see the actual the price here. I'll put this link in the chat for you guys. Just bookmark that. I'll put it in there as well in the social media. No, no one wants to hear your psychology. How does that make you feel? You want me to get on the couch? I'll talk to you. I'll walk you through my childhood. But yeah, so if you go to this NASDAQ Trader Halts, if you don't see it, just go to NASDAQtrader.com and click this current trading halts link right here. And then you'll be able to see, like if we go back to PHGE, for example, and then I scroll over, you can see it's an M halt. The reason right here is in this column. You've got LUDP, which is the limit up down. And then you've got M. And if you put your mouse over it, you can see it's just a volatility halt. And there are different rules for different exchanges. This one's on Amex, so you see the M. The NASDAQ ones have LUDP. So it's the same type of halt. It's just a circuit breaker, meaning that too much price has happened within a certain period of time, which is usually a minute and 10%. And then you can also see like these H11 codes here. This is halted on a regulatory concern. T1 and T12 are also like news catalysts. So MAGH and JMG have some catalysts here, and these can remain halted for weeks at a time, or they can unhalt within 5 minutes. So if it's a news catalyst or a regulatory concern, then you've got some bigger worries in the mix there. If it's just M or LUDP or maybe a T1 halt, I'm sorry, T1 or T2 or T3, those are news, but they typically unhalt pretty soon. It's the 11s and 12s and all those that you got to worry about. And I think if you click this trading halt codes, you can click that and it'll just kind of, let me just expand this. Sorry, I'm not trying to cover up the price, but I just wanted to show you guys. You can see these right here. So if you see a T1, you look for T2, and that'll say that the news was released, and then that's just the exchange giving the market enough time to absorb this, so people can go look at the filings and then come back to the trade. And then T5 is basically this is kind of the standard LUDP. So this is where NASDAQ halts a stock that's been moved within 5 minutes more than 10%. And it hasn't been adjusted. So they can make adjustments to the threshold. T6 is rare. That's more for like when something crazy is going on, like somebody tries to hack something. You're not going to see that much these days. And then T8 is also rare. It's for an ETF that halts. So there's stocks, there's common shares, and then there's the ETFs. T12 is when the exchange requests additional information, and that's when it takes, it could take 5 minutes if the exchange just picks up the phone and calls the company, or they might require a filing, which could take 4 to 8 to 12 days, depending on the type of filing. H4 is typically when something gets delisted, or if they get if they change their ticker. And then you can just go down the list here, but most of it you're just going to see LUDP and M most of the time because those are just your volatility halts. So let's come back over here. We get a little bit more pull down here. So we'll see if they want to bring it down to 6 and then bounce it, or if it's just going to hang out here. Well, that's cooking. Just going to look down here at NUWE. And remember, this is the threshold. So if they fail this level down here at 373, that's when we got potential to come all the way down here to like the 280s, 270s. So that's going to be risky biscuits there. So there is a 5-candle rule. It's here, but it's not a good area. It's not a good neighborhood. So we can always pass on that one. XTKG isn't really doing much. It's just kind of bouncing between these two ranges here. And each time it just bisects this zone here. So pretty sketchy stuff, right? Like it's not respecting structure at this point. So we can always just pass on this. CYN also just kind of going flat. This one's pretty much dead for the day, right? If you look at this volume, it's just flat. So probably just going to get some trickle, maybe a gradual reversal. Maybe it'll come up to like maybe 230-ish. There's no way to know, but for right now, it's just not moving with aggression. AKA standard halt time is 5 minutes. Yes, the minimum halt time is 5 minutes, and that's to make sure that the information can propagate across all brokers and that all shareholders have the opportunity to be well informed. So it's got to be a 5-minute minimum. If it's an LUDP halt, a volatility halt, and that 5-minute window passes, during that 5 minutes, the exchange can manually review the ticker and the price data. And then if they determine that it's appropriate to adjust the threshold to avoid, chain halting, then that can happen as well. And then it'll be pushed back another 5 minutes. And then when it unhalts the second time, the threshold that causes the halt the next time should be changed to maybe some other proportional. It could be like 20%. We just don't know. We just know it's not a flat 10%. And you're almost always going to see that happening on these low float fast runner stocks more than anything else. All right. IVF is in the momentum gap here. So we'll see if that one just plummets and sells down to 140s. So this one shouldn't be moving up at all. If it is, there's something sketchy here. But this one should just be slamming to the downside here. I'm just going to move this line over to represent that. So just looking for a big red candle here. And again, I'm not trading it, so it doesn't really matter. But I just want to show you guys kind of what we should expect in situations like this. Because we just had all this accumulation right here in this range. And it just failed. So it should all switch to selling. So if we see anything other than that, we can identify that there's something going on. And then that can kind of adjust how we approach this ticker. All right, and you can see, grand scheme of things, this position here is down double digits, and I'm down 50 cents for the day. So not going to financially break me here. And that's an important concept too, is if you're going to have drawdown, you got to make sure it's on minimal position sizes. So that way you don't, destroy your emotional health or your portfolio. All right, looks like XTKG is showing a little strength out of the zone. So let's see if that one wants to push up any higher. It's a 5% candle right here. So all the momentum kids should be jumping in if it's got potential. But again, it's got to get through this range. The last 2 times it visited this range, it kind of slingshotted the price to the downside, and then it caused a slingshot again, moving from here all the way down to here. So pretty risky there. So if it's going to break over, it's got to keep pushing. It's got to go up to the upside. Momentum kids, you like that one? Yeah. That's what they are. They like their fast movement. The doctor, got to go have fun today and stay safe. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Glad you're able to hang out. Keep those paintings coming as well. I like seeing that progress. It's good stuff. Objectively friendly. Could you look at MIGI and RMFC? Sure. What are you looking for in these? You said multi-day swing. I don't like this chart. I'll tell you that much. What are you looking for here? Even on the weekly, it's pretty sketchy. What's got you into that one? Like, what was the appeal here? If it was just the fact that it's sold off, that is typically not, it's not exciting, Is there a catalyst you like about this company? Let me, insider activity. Okay. Let's take a look. Sorry, I'm just going to move this over here so we can keep an eye on this number as well. We did get a little bit of a pull up there on PHGE. So, all right, first off, big red flag. Current ratio is less than 1. That means that if they close their doors today, they would be able to survive about 4 months with their scheduled debt, and then they would have to close their doors. So pretty risky, right? And then you see institutional transactions. They've dumped. There's 43% right there. We've got a negative ROA, ROE. Short float's 38.2%, which typically like to look around 20%. So it's about double that. They've got about half the free float in restricted shares, which means they could dilute at some point. Let's take a look here. They filed in bankruptcy court, looks like. Okay, there's an order for 1.5 million bond. It's a little bit sketchy, man. Not gonna lie. Oh, someone else did? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into the actual filings here, but I see a lot of risky words here as a potential investor here that I don't want to see when I look at headlines. Even being involved in a lawsuit on the other side can be risky for shareholders because it doesn't introduce a lot of liability. So we'll take a look at let's take a look here. It looks like you got some Vanguard ownership, Geo, State Street's in 0.22%. Morgan Stanley 0.04%, SBI. I mean, these are pretty low. Let's see what kind of funds. Vanguard, Fidelity, Blackstone has 0. Okay. Yeah, I mean this it's a little sketchy, right? So let's give it a fair shake here. I'm just going to look at the revenue. That's all right. It's not negative or anything. That's good. Let's take a look here. Net income's negative. Don't like that. EPS diluted, negative, but it's improving. That's good. Free cash flow, negative. Don't like that. That's a big red flag for me. I want a company to be making money that's extra. I want them to be able to keep some money because that's what's going to be available to me and you. So I want to see a positive cash flow, quarter after quarter, year after year. Let's look at their balance sheet. Very little cash for the size of the company. It's 2.28 million. But back in 2022, they had less than half of that. So cash growth, though, is a concern, right? Negative 60%, negative 82%. They got a couple 300% years. That's great, but those are relative numbers. And again, total current assets to total current liabilities. It's 21.15 to 59. So that's positive. That's weird. I wonder why Finbiz showed a negative or a 0.3, whatever. Interesting. Assets to liabilities, though, they have fewer assets than liabilities. So that's not good. Okay. So we'll just go over the SEC site real quick. Sorry, I'm not trying to hyper focus on this one stock here. I'm just trying to see some positive. Right now I don't see it. So if I click this button here and I see an NT10Q, I'm going to lose my, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to flip my lid. NT10Q right here. Nope, I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole. You got multiple. That's a deal breaker right there. I mean, there's always a speculative potential. You might catch a little bit of a pump on it, but as an investment, no. This company is, I gave it all the benefits of all the doubts, and it just still ended up stubbing my toe on a minefield of Legos. You're thinking of selling a spike. Well, you got a pretty good average. If you're in at 216, the stock is currently at 470. So, I mean, you had a good spike over here in October, right? This is definitely not going to be a short squeeze. I'll tell you that. Unless you get some insane surge in volume. And as soon as they do, they're likely going to probably do a split or something. They're going to dilute. This is not good. So the company's losing money overall. And just to kind of summarize what we've seen, Their expenses are too high. And that car's radio is loud. That guy's going to go deaf. I don't know if you guys could hear that. That's crazy. ID10Q, NT10Q, sir. Yeah, the company's just losing money. They're just hemorrhaging money, which isn't uncommon, you know, in certain sectors. You know, this is a mining company, right? Or no, it's FinCap. Yeah, there's no reason they should be struggling then in this economy. So, yeah, I mean, they've got internal inefficiencies. They can't even they can't submit their homework on time, right? That's a big no-no. They don't have enough to cover their debt. Their expenses are out of control. I haven't even looked at the 8Ks yet to see what's going on here. Here's, you know, they got a couple of earnings, material modification of to right security holds. I hate seeing these as well. Amendments to articles of incorporation. This is usually really bad because this is what affects investors, and then investors panic and they lose faith in the company. So let's just see if it's a positive change, but I'm not seeing anything good here yet. So they filed a complaint for violation of security laws as well as a motion. Okay, so they're going after some other company. Okay, the complaint alleges, among other matters, that the defendants acquired shares of the company's common stock in multiple transactions without timely filing a required Schedule 13D, disclosing blah, 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 intent to effect a change in control of the company through a partial tender offer, $10 per share, second pipe offering. Yeah, so it's just messy, right? Oh, you're 469 on MIGI? Okay. So you're right around your break even then, at the very least. And again, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you that there's a lot of risk here. And there's very little that I see in support of investors rallying behind this stock. You might catch some market momentum just from algos that might just happen to jump in here. You know, you've got a algo setup right here. There's somebody waiting on this, but they do that across thousands of stocks. You know, there's no guarantee it's going to get a bid or that it's going to rally. So personally, if I was going to look at this, I would probably wait till the volume's already here, like we do on the small cap, the low float fast movers for the day, rather than trying to maybe jockey into position ahead of time, because things like this could very easily halt and just delist before you know it. Like, this company is in sketchy territory, and they're financial, which means that they could get hit with surprise regulations as well. So just sketchy is all. I don't personally see anything here that I like. I see them adjusting the rights to shareholders. I see that they, as previously reported, blah, 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 company held its annual meeting to effect a reverse stock split of at least 1 for 2, up to 1 for 30. The board has approved the implementation of the reverse stock split at a ratio of 1 for 20. And that was going to be on November 21st, 2025. So that's already happened, and it's recent, which means that they would be sub-dollar at this point by 1/20th of the price. So they've lost enough money where they've had to do a reverse stock split, and now their shares, if they hadn't done that, their true value per share is 23 or 24 cents. So the only reason they did the stock split is so they could remain listed, but this is a downward trajectory, and I don't see any hope for recovery at this time. Just my personal assessment. Obviously, I can't give you financial advice, but I would tell you that me personally, I would use either a very tiny position if you're going to try to get in ahead of time, or I would wait until the volume is absolutely rocking and rolling before I even expose anything. So I hope that helps. What was the other one there? RMFC. RMFC. I also want to keep an eye out here because this one's starting to pull back up. Let me just kind of push back over here. We're getting a little bit of a pump there. RMFC, so let's go to the daily. A lot of noise on this, right? So we've got a zone here that I kind of like, just kind of eyeballing these. I like this. And I think that's it. I don't really see anything else that I like just yet. Yeah, I think I'd probably just leave it at those two. Yeah, so maybe if it holds here, that's good. But let's take a look at their money, right? Let's see what they got. RMFC. Did I type it wrong? Oh, it's the wrong stock. You said RMFC, correct? Yeah, you did. RMCF. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. This looks a little bit more strong. I like this a little bit more. Now you've got some sketchiness over here to worry about, but let's pull up the ticker and see what we got. RMCF. And I want to be very clear here that what investors see versus what the market actually realizes are two completely different things. So just because a company is performing well doesn't mean the market's going to appreciate that and reward shareholders. Okay, so we always have to keep that in mind. So don't treat these as mutually exclusive 100%, but don't marry them together either, and assume that just because something has good numbers that it will reflect in the share price, because that is not always the case. All right, so current ratio is over 1. I like that so far. It passes that test. Minimal institutional transactions. Pretty decent ownership, but it's not too high. It's below 50%. Short float is nice and low at 1.33%. So I like this one a lot better already. There are about 2, maybe 3 million shares almost in restricted. So if they do want to dilute, we have to be mindful of that. Looks like they just had their earnings a couple of weeks ago. I don't see anything about lawsuits, so that's good. Just a lot of earnings stuff all the way back through October. Okay, first quarter. Looks like I had a change in VP. Regains compliance. Ooh, all right. So that's a sketchy one. That tells me that there's going to be some sort of 8K that I'm not going to want to see on this one, but that's okay. Announces intention to file 12B. Right. So they tried to push back their earnings back in May by 15 days. So, okay. So as an annual filing, that's fine. That's not uncommon. It just means that they have to get like third-party auditors to come and, that takes time. So it's not uncommon. The one thing that I don't want to see is a delay in a 10Q, because those don't require external auditing. A company can just do that anytime they want. And when a company fails to do that on time, that's a big red flag, because that means they don't have their finances in order internally, or their CFO is just high on coke and not doing his job. So could be either one of those. They did a 2.2 million private placement in August 2024, it looks like. So they are definitely willing to dilute. Okay. All right. So let's take a look here at let's look at the finances here a little bit. RMCF. Okay. So just going to click financials here. Revenue, nice, stable, high revenue compared to their market cap. That's pretty decent. I'm not too worried about that. Let's take a look at that EPS diluted. Not liking that, and again, that's because they're diluting and they're having to spend money. Free cash flow negative. So I don't like that. For an investment, I want this to be positive, because I want them to be able to buy their shares back and not have to offer more to the market if they need to raise cash. I don't want them taking it out of my pocket as an investor. Cash equivalents. What do we got? Declining. So not a good sign there. We already looked at the asset to the current ratio, which is the total current assets divided by total current liabilities. So that's about a 1.4, I think. Finviz, I think, said 1.6 or something like that. Not the best, not the worst, but just means they'd be able to survive about 1.5 years if they closed all their doors. Okay, and then we got a decent enough asset to the total asset to liability ratio there. It's positive, that's okay. Net cash negative, not a big fan of that. Let's see, what do they offer? They offer dividends. That's crazy that they would even try that. Okay, I was gonna say, this is from 6 years ago. It makes sense. They're just losing money. So why would they be offering dividends to people? So they tried and it didn't work because they're not financially stable. So I would say maybe for a swing trade, you can look for the, the impulsive moves to the upside. But in this case, you can also just look at the chart and say every time it's made a move like that, it gives it back immediately. And situations like this are great for moving those stop losses up. So that's my verdict here on this, is that if I were to trade this, I would just let impulses happen to the upside, let it breathe to the upside. And then as soon as it stops and it starts to pull back, I'd be getting out. I don't see the financial juice to back that up. But I do see that there's enough potential here to get the market behind it short term. And then as soon as that market turns around on it, it just sells off and gives those profits back. So I would personally just let it ride up, and then obviously keep an eye out for dilution catalysts, like if they do another private placement, things like that. Just keep an eye out for that. And just for funsy onesies, we're going to look at the SEC filings because that's how we like to do here. So am I going to see an NT10Q? Ooh, there's an NT10K. That was a close one. NT10Q, you son of a biscuit. All right. There's just one. It's not the end of the world. Garbage, right? So, it would be purely speculative. It wouldn't be an investment for me. It would just be a speculative trade. Hope that helps. All right, sorry, let me catch up here because I think someone else asked for a ticker. COHR, short-term or long-term equity reentry position. Let's check Ghost Chicken. What was that ticker again? COHR. Okay, there's the daily time frame. This is a $216 stock. This is Coherent Corp. Weekly chart, I like. Daily chart, I like. Obviously, we've looked at this one before back here around the $100 level. So I do like the chart, but let's see what they got on the money side. Money, right? So COHR, what are you looking for? What do you see in there? Ghost Chicken. Okay, so let's take a look. Current ratio is over 2. I like that a lot better. That means they could survive till 2028 if they had to close their doors today, cease operations. I don't really like the insider transaction being negative 40% or the institutional ownership being 95%, because once that starts to dump more and more, this is likely to pull back pretty hard if that's the case, because they're holding all this equity. They're going to want to cash out. It's going to become a game of institutional hot potato, and that has the potential to slam the price to the downside. At which point, it might have good fundamentals to drive it back up, but we don't want to buy at the top and then have it sell off. You said that you've had this for a while. You got it in and out a couple times. That's great. Stocks like this are always good to just enter and then keep stops tight as they move up. You always can capture that volatility in one direction. So let's take a look and see what their numbers are. And I'm trying to keep the financial analysis stuff pretty simple. So just for now, I'm just looking at revenue. So they got growing revenue. That's pretty good compared to their market cap. It's pretty decent. Let's see here. We've got some EPS diluted. Not a big fan of that swoop. Don't like it going negative. Let's look at the basics. Same thing, obviously. Free cash flow is positive. It's not that great though. So they're just kind of squeaking by here, where they could be a lot more efficient in terms of making money that they get to keep. So not the end of the world. It is positive and that's good, but I'd like to see this number growing because that shows that they're efficient internally. So let's take a look very, very quickly and see kind of what's causing that. So cash, pretty stable, but kind of low compared to 2021, 2022. Now this is $2.5 billion as well, 4 years ago. So it's going to be kind of hard to compete, but their market cap is also $2 billion. Their revenue is $2 billion. So they basically had an extra year's worth of revenue there. Cash growth is negative though. So it's negative or very small. So I'm not a big fan of that. So something is taking their money away. It's not that they're not making money, just they're not able to keep it. So we can look at their debt and we can look at their expenses and just kind of see what's going on there. So, all right. So total current assets is 4. Total current liabilities is 1.7. So that's a good ratio there. Total assets to total liabilities is 2.3 to 1. That's good. I like that. Long-term debt is not super high. So it's not like they got a bunch of, long-term stuff there. So something else is causing that inefficiency. There we go. So it looks like they're just taking on a bunch of debt. So it's interesting. Like, what would be the reason for that? And that's going to be in the SEC filings. I think it's M&A or R&D. I mean, I hope so, right? But the problem is they don't have a lot of cash to do that with. Like, if they're trying to buy other companies, they're going to have to compete, and they can't compete because their investor book is going to be a lot thinner than the other guy, if it's a bigger company. So they're not really going to bring a lot to the table, and they're just going to spend a bunch on contracts, and they're just not going to get their money's worth. I did see that they put a lot towards goodwill, 3 times what they pay for rentals and leases and stuff, which is, an indicator that they're interested in M&A, but it's got to be a little bit more feasible, operating cash flow. This is pretty high. So again, I don't think that they're really doing badly. I think they're just inefficient internally. They're putting a lot towards their debt, and it's just digging into their cash. I mean, it's not bad, right? I just don't think that they're as efficient as they could be. So, yeah, I mean, maybe. So in a case like this, again, I would just kind of look at it, and say, all right, the company's definitely been on a tear, right? You compare that with the sector and everything, it should be pretty well in alignment. And then you've also got a series of higher lows where you could just follow this up and let it continue breathing if it wants to. And you can keep an eye on those headlines for M&A and R&D stuff. But if those don't happen, if they don't come to fruition, then you run the risk of potentially just wasting time, right? That's the big concern here. So let me go back here to the company search. What was that ticker again? COHR. So let's look at the filings here really quick and just see if we can see something. All right, so ASRs aren't uncommon. Most companies have these. It's just an automatic shelf registration. It's just putting a chip on the table that says, if at any point in the next couple of years, I want to do an offering, I want to reserve the right to do that. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that they're going to do something. It also doesn't mean that they're not going to do something. It just means that they want to reserve the ability to make that move if they have to. And they have to file this ahead of time if they want to do that. And that's for it's an automatic shelf registration. So first things first, I'm going to look for an NT10Q because you guys know how I be. Clean bill of health. I don't see one so far. That's good. Now I'm just going to very quickly look at the item numbers in these 8Ks. So I'm going to click the 8Ks. See a bunch of press releases, which you can always look for these. We got a vote upcoming, or that's the results. 7.01 there. All right, so they got a creation of a DFO, so that's worth looking into. So 1.01 and 2.03, always worth looking at, because that means that they're going to enter some sort of agreement with another company, which could be a merger announcement. We got another one back here in January, so 1 year ago, another DFO. Their shareholder votes, don't really care too much about that just yet. They do have a lot of 7.01s, these regulation FD disclosures. It's fair disclosure. And those are just little tidbits that they want to add on to make sure investors are informed. So it's a good sign for compliance, but they might also try to sneak stuff in there. So it's always worth just kind of looking at those. And companies that put a lot of those out, it's too tedious, and I just don't. I start to dislike companies based on stuff like that, because there's other places for that information. Just put it in the right filing, and then you don't have to do these little add-ons. All right, refinancing amendment. All right, let's take a look at it. Okay, this one was filed September 26th, so a couple months ago. Okay, the company obtained additional senior secured incremental revolving credit commitments, increasing the total revolving credit. Yeah, so they just have a lot of established debt. So not the end of the world, but these terms will mature at some point. So it's important to understand the conditions of those terms and the dates. So, okay. Okay, so September 26, 3030. So they got a 5-year, 4-year term A loan. What's the term B? Adonde. I'd have to look into more of that. Here we go. Okay, this is 1.75% as opposed to 1.5%. I don't see a date on this. It's revolving, so okay. And I'm sure it's all down here. I'm not going to go super deep in the rabbit hole on that one. Okay, so term loan facility remain unchanged. So it looks like they just have a lot of debt and interest on that debt, and that's kind of eating into their operating cash. So Let's see here. They got, they're getting it through JP Morgan. Nice. Not the best for rates, but whatever. Here's the term B stuff. Okay. Credit. All right. Interest rate margin applicable to B was reduced from 1.5% to 1%. That's good. In the case of base rate loans, from 2%, or sorry, 2.5 to 2%. So that's good. So they got better terms for these contracts. When was this one filed? January of 2025. So it's an older filing. So it looks like they got a better rate, and then they took on more debt. So through JP Morgan. So they're doing something. Something's going on there. They're losing money internally in their operating costs. So, but they're also providing a bunch of cash so that they have money for something, and then they're just kind of sitting on that cash. So, I mean, I wouldn't think it would be too far off the mark to say that they are interested in doing some M&A stuff. I just don't see anything specifically, but I'm also not looking at all the 8Ks. So I'm sure there's probably some information in there. But I do think that if they do take that route, they're going to be pretty weak compared to some of their competitors. So in biotech terms, I see this as them going to trial, but not really getting strong results. So I think the market will eventually make a decision about that. And I do know that the current trajectory they're on financially is not sustainable at that rate. So they're going to have to take on more and more debt. So they got to make something happen. So they're in the same position as Intel, right? This is their best window to make something happen with their current situation, but they can't just hold out forever. Oh yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying in terms of like if we were to compare this over to a biotech company, that would be the equivalent of a biotech company going to trial and committing all this, millions of dollars, and then just getting kind of mediocre results, So the likelihood of these guys, capitalizing on something, getting that big wow move that's really going to up their market cap, it's pretty low right now. And I'm basing that, again, limited insight here because I'm not looking at all these filings, but unless they make something spectacular happen pretty soon, I see them probably just diluting or falling victim to all that debt that they're accruing right now when they can't pay off their principal and interest. So just my personal, initial sniff test. I'd have to look at the company a little bit more in depth to make that decision with confidence. But just from what I see so far, I see that they're not super efficient financially, and I see that they're taking on more and more debt. And then I guess one of the other items that I want to look for here is corporate actions, splits. So they have a history of splits as well back in the early 2000s. So they're not afraid to take stuff away from shareholders, and they're not really in a position to give too much more money to shareholders. So I'd be a little bit sketched about it personally. But again, there's a lot of move, right? There's a lot of movement here, and we can participate in that. We just have to be careful about how far we let that breathe against us. So if you're in and it's going up right now, which it seems to be, 8% for today alone, a lot of volatility there. We can always scale out into the strength. And then if it starts to pull back, if it reverses, if it fails a higher low, then we can just cut the remainder right there. And we can always get back in if it wants to go back up, but we don't have to endure, potential pullback all the way to like 105 or even below like 140, for example. So we can capture that move and then just get out when it's time to get out. Okay. Objection. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat here. Farouk, how's it going, buddy? Xasian, are you still in fly? I saw it came down last night and up 8% this morning. You asking me? I'm not. If that was for me. Oh, Tammy. Okay. All right. I was like, I'm not in that one. I looked at it, but I don't like it personally. Not just yet. Can't get into them all. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, let me just check my DMs here real quick. Okay, I might have to jump off of here because it's getting colder in my house, which means that the furnace is not on. So I got to go deal with that before we get more frozen pipes. Yay. All right. So with that said, though, I am going to end the recording in the live stream. Thank you all for watching on the social media. I got to end this. I'll be in the Discord. Let me put the link in there as well. If you guys are on social media and want to get into the Discord, you guys are more than welcome to jump in there. We have the next stream coming up. It's going to be our 1 p.m. Discord and premium changes review. So it'll be right here in this channel. And then after that, we've got our spread trading live in premium. And that's where the Swinging Bull is going to go through all his spread trades. So if you're trading options, you don't have to trade naked options. There's a safer way. And then make sure you guys are here at 5 o'clock if possible for the Trading Psychology group. That's easily the best stream, in my opinion, that we offer. So make sure you guys show up for that one. They're doing a really good book. Let me end the live stream though, and then I'll hang out in Discord.